And we're back.
Okay.
Hi, Louise. It's Cheryl from IPL Radio. And can I say your name right? Is it Louise Mercieca?
Mercia.
Oh, Mercia. Okay. There was a C in there, and I just thought,
extra C for no reason. Yeah, just to confuse people.
No worries. So tell me about the health kick.
So the health kick I started 11 years ago. I initially started out as a personal trainer because I wanted to kind of use my hobby as a business, and exercise was my hobby. So that seemed like a perfect thing to do. I did PT and group exercise for a while, and then I got a bit frustrated because people all were asking the same questions and they all wanted the same quick fix. And what I found was that 95% of people didn't understand their body at all. They really didn't have a clue about food. There's lots of confusion about food and diets and health and weight, and people thought they could out-exercise anything. So that if they go to the gym for an hour a day and, literally beast themselves, they think it doesn't matter what they eat or how stressed they are. So they were a very common kind of thread amongst clients. And I thought, oh no, this isn't going to help anybody. So I studied nutritional therapy and sort of changed the balance of the work to do more of that and less PT. And I did nutritional therapy for a while. And then my little boy was turning 4 and starting school back in 2018.
Oh, yeah.
And so I thought, for a bit of fun, I would study nutrition and children's brains. That's my idea of fun. And I thought it would help him, and I'd be able to support him, making sure that, he was starting school and I could feed him properly.
Awesome.
But that blew my mind. It absolutely blew my mind doing that course, because I realized how little we knew about the importance of formative development and just how important food is. And so I completely changed everything in my business. I certainly didn't sit down and plan to, but I just thought, people need to know this. People need to know how important early years nutrition is. We don't talk about it. We don't talk about the effects of a bad diet or the impact on future health. So since 2018, the health kick has really primarily focused on children and raising this sort of awareness of this message that at the moment we are predicting that children will not live as long as the adults before them. And they are literally walking into a host of, we will call them lifestyle diseases, but they are led by the way we live our lives. And that's something that I don't think we should just walk into. So that's basically what I'm doing.
Oh, no, it sounds really good. I mean, yeah, and you're right about it, starting with the kids and when they learn, because kids learn at a different rate than we do. And if we start early, then they get that knowledge, and they can take that into their, because the kids that we're bringing up are going to be the future adults. So if we teach them about the importance of nutrition, because yes, we don't eat, we can't live. So it's good to know how to eat properly.
Exactly, and it really does have an impact on, as you say, children are the adults of the future. So when we look at, and a lot of people isolate food and they think, oh, nutrition, I'm going to switch off because it's not for me, because I'm not interested in losing weight at the moment, or I'm not interested in this, or somebody who's going to tell me what to do again. We kind of isolate and segregate nutrition into little pockets when it doesn't need to be there. It needs to be everywhere. It's literally at the forefront of everything.
Yeah.
There's nothing in the body that nutrition doesn't impact on. So when we look at children and we consider children's health, and then we look at the whole society and economic impact of a child's health, we are literally talking about how well they will do at school, how well their academic output will be, how well their work prospects will be, how well they'll fit into society. All of that is linked to how good their formative nutrition is. So we cannot segregate and think, well, it's not important, it's not relevant, because it absolutely is. And in the UK at the moment, we've had a disappointing turn from our government where we had some really good obesity strategies lined up to come in, and they've done a big U-turn on it. And it's super typical but super short-sighted, because what they're doing is thinking, we're not going to spend the money on that now. But the impact of that means they will spend about 14 times more in the future because they've not invested now. And I think nutrition's always seen as something reactive, not proactive.
Yeah, I mean, I get where you're coming up. That is funny how governments do that, and when you think about how nutrition impacts on kids and how much. If they didn't if they spent the money now on that nutrition, they won't they won't be spending the money in like the hospitals and things like that. Mm-hmm. So yeah, they're gonna regret it, and hopefully someone picks it up and very soon, because we're trying,
we are trying, but it's as with everything with nutrition, it's an uphill struggle. And I think, I don't know about around the world, but I know children's health is sometimes seen as something as we'll sort that out later. So it's never given the kind of importance that it should be, because on the whole, children tend to be okay. But what we're forgetting is that they are not exempt from adult diseases. And this is something that I think grown-ups often think. They think, oh, well, so what if a child is carrying a little bit of extra weight, or so what, they're children, they'll burn it off, they'll grow out of it. Yeah. What people forget is that actually children are not exempt from adult diseases. We stopped calling type 2 diabetes adult onset about 20 years ago, because it's not an adult disease. We have over 3,000 children in the UK with type 2 diabetes. We had 20 years ago. Yeah. So they're not exempt. They will get these diseases. They will have horrible side effects of a lifestyle that a lot of the time they have no control over, because children from a very young age don't have a voice with what they eat. It's those grown-ups who make decisions for them.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, over here we're in Australia, obviously, and I know they're trying to make changes, like for the school canteen. When we were growing up, when I was in school, we had the pies and sausage rolls and stuff like that. Now they're getting rid of those, and they're having, the traffic light system over here, and they have to make sure they're having one of, the red, no red, or, only a bit of the red, but more orange and green, and mostly green if they can. And I've seen that as well. And I know if you go to kindy, the kids have to have a decent amount of food in their, you're crunching something called crunch and sip during the morning. And so it's, it hones in on them that they need to have a bit of a snack, but it's got to be something like a crunch, which means an apple, or So they're trying things over here as well. So nutrition is a forefront. I mean, I'm going through a journey myself with a bit of, like, not nutrition, but I had a gastric sleeving almost 2 years ago, and people are saying to me, "Oh, that's a quick fix," and I said no, because it's learning how to. It's learning how to eat differently. It's learning how to keep it up, because it's a tool. It's not a quick fix. It's a tool that you use to help you get where you need to get to. And even with the sleeve, like, I've got to a point where I think the sleeve's not working for me anymore, because I'm changing up my routine of my exercise and things like that. And I had the choice of the bypass or the sleeve. So you weigh things up, but I'm good. I'm happy where I am. But so it's just a matter of learning a bit more about nutrition and food, and so I might start getting into that myself. Have a look at your blog.
It's absolutely about, I think we've been told what to do with nutrition for so many years. I mean, this goes back to the 1970s, when we had the start of the diet industry, and that came about because there was a rise in coronary heart disease in America, and they thought, oh, what's going on? It must be the fact that people are eating too much saturated fat. So based on that sort of anecdotal link, they launched the diet industry, and they demonized fat very much. It's like, oh, no, this is bad. Yeah. But in the launch of the diet industry came so much extra sugar, because with diet foods, they reduce the fat content and it tastes like cardboard. So, of course, they have to do something to make it palatable. And we saw a massive increase in the amount of sugar consumed from the 70s when people started eating fat. And that approach lasted until mid-2000s, when people started to realize that actually it's not the fat that's making people fat, it's the sugar. And we've got this diet industry that has risen financially in global wealth to astronomical heights, and global diet leaders who will hold their hands up and say, we have an incredibly successful business model because we're based on repeat business. And if people just think about that for a moment, they admit they don't work. They admit people have to come back, and they admit that's why they make their money. And yet for decades, people have believed that fat is bad and will have the diet foods full of artificial weirdness and sugar. And if we look at the correlation from the 70s of both the rise of the diet industry and the rise of global obesity, the trends are exactly on the same trajectory. They have both risen exponentially. So we know that dieting isn't the answer. We know that counting calories isn't the answer. We know that reducing fat isn't the answer. It's much more about understanding what food really is. I think we've lost that along the way. In the last few decades, we've lost our relationship with food, and we've lost touch with ourselves because we're desensitized to so many things now because of our environment. I think that's where we need to go. And you're absolutely right. We need to do that with children, because children are amazing little sponges. And people think, oh, you can't talk to a child about biology. You're a 3-year-old. I've spoke to 2 and 3-year-olds about biology and about the food connection, and they get it. And why shouldn't they get it? Why shouldn't they have some say and some ownership of their own future health?
Yeah, exactly. And kids will tell you what they really like and what they don't like. But if you give them, a taste of everything, and then they can make that decision, as well as you helping them, informing them on the right ways to go about it. So with your site, healthkick.co.uk. Yeah, is that just a bit of blogs that you've done so far about early childhood nutrition and a few other things?
It's a bit of a mix. I've kind of general videos on there, which are like video blogs about, why not to trust the diet industry, why not to bother about the scales. I get really upset when people beat themselves up so much about standing on the scales. The video is called The Scales of Shame, because that is what they do. These public groups, I cannot stand these public groups where they get people together and they publicly weigh them, and people pay for that. And the people really don't truly understand the emotional, the physiological, any of the complex nutritional neuroscience that people should know when they're dealing with people in that emotional state with their weight. So there's lots of information about little videos like that, but there's also links to my podcast, which is much more up to date, because that's new episodes out twice monthly. And I do a theme on my podcast and on my social media where we talk about a subject in detail for a month, and then we'll change themes. So last month in May, we had men's health, and we were talking about the role of men and why men don't talk as much, this sort of perception. And I lived in Australia for a while, and I know it was quite apparent there as well that men should be strong and men shouldn't cry and men shouldn't share emotions, and masculinity is about physical strength and holding it together. And we've had that depiction for centuries, but actually no, men are human, men have emotions, and it's really, really bad for men to not express them. And in the UK, I think a man dies by suicide every 2 hours. So it's something that is horrifying and very much needed to change. Men are human, they have emotions, and they need to be able to express them. So we had men's health, and then in June this month, we're covering public health priorities. Because we have 3 main causes of death, which are all attributed to lifestyle. So obesity, smoking, and alcohol. And it's only going to get worse because we are experiencing a huge cost of living crisis in the UK for various reasons: Brexit, the war in Ukraine, and So with any cost of living crisis, with any economical disparity, health always gets worse for certain segments of society. And smoking, obesity, and alcohol are all linked to economics as well. So there's so much that nutrition impacts on. We have more people using food banks than ever before in the UK, and that generally means that obesity and malnutrition go up within those populations. So short-sighted again, because those people will end up costing a lot more in the NHS, and it's not their fault. This is absolutely nobody's fault, but the people in charge. And I'm not going to get political because I never compliment women, but
I could say a few things about our government, but not going to. We keep it real here.
and then move on quickly. There's so much. There is just so much that food impacts on, and on the website, I try to just keep it fresh with the podcast. There is information on early years and the work that I do to support early years professionals.
Yeah.
So I do early years consultancy where I look at, for example, nurseries and schools. And if they're struggling with their menus, thinking, does this fit what a child needs? Then I'll look at that and help them out and do a nutritional analysis and help them design new dishes and explain what is needed in terms of building a child's brain, helping them to concentrate in the classroom, you know, what might be missing that is stopping a child from concentrating. It really can be quite simple. And children are very adaptive as long as we get them young enough. That's when they're most pliable.
So we, as teachers, I'm like that. I'm like, teach them young. Why? Because you have to get them. I'm a drama English teacher. Well, I haven't got a job, but I had taught for 5 years. But I'm always like, I've got to get the younger generation because then they can appreciate theatre and they can appreciate, you know, what's coming up and how to do this and stuff like that. Because theatre is something I like to help people with their confidence and build them up, and I think theatre will help them in, you know, when they do oral assessments and things like that. So that's why I'm like, we got to get them in there.
Definitely.
But thank you so much for today, and your website again is thehealthkick.co.uk.
That's right. Yeah.
And you're a award winner, author and presenter, and a nutritional therapist.
That's right, yeah. And podcast host now as well.
And a podcast host now. Oh, yeah, you're adding to your thing, so you know what you're talking about. So that's really, really great. So we thank you for today. And so if you're looking for nutritional information, get on the website. So that's healthkick.co, that's co, and at .uk, and get on there. So thank you so much, and we'll chat. Might chat again on a later date, but so enjoy your weekend.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Bye.